Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Taki'h, and I'm being joined here by the fabulous Karim in Egypt and Saija in Finland. And this is the masterclass, the webinar on the light masculine. So you'll have a lot to hear from me and momentarily on the light masculine, but I'd love to have these beautiful beings introduce themselves and say a little bit about why they've decided to join me, us here today, and especially on this theme.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Saija, and I just came across the cross this spring and Taki'h's work during the lockdown situation, and it just made so much sense, like right away, like so many pieces of the puzzle of my personal spiritual path and all the modalities and all the practices, and so it just sort of like gathered it all together in a very beautiful and practical way. And then I went to Taki'h's workshop, which was held just a couple of weeks ago, Integrated Masculine. And it was profound, very profound. And I realized that, yeah, there was a part in my life, a period in my life, quite long one, that the light masculine was very, very strong, very, I mean, it went over. I wouldn't say that it's still so. It's quite balanced, and there's also the dark masculine. I find that it's quite strong in me. I would say that the masculine side altogether is strong in my being, but I think that I have some reflections on the light masculine being a bit over.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to join us and you accepted my invitation. Karim.
Oh, hi. So I'm Karim. I live in Cairo, and I've came across the cross a couple of years ago, and wow, it's been quite a journey. And then I actually started working with Taki'h again a couple of years ago. I mean, we've met 2017 for the first time, and it wasn't up till last year when I was in the workshop with you that it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's why. And it's been an amazing piece in my integration of all my quadrants together. And I was so happy to be invited to this because now I get to share this piece and know more, because it's again, it's been very important to me, and it's been very informative on both mental and experiential level. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, so yeah, so the cross, what's the cross? For those of you who are not aware of the cross and you're just stumbling on this video without any previous context, there is a blog that I've written which you can read more specifics. It's on my website, and in the YouTube description of this video, there's a link to that. And there are also the other quadrants of the cross already there in the YouTube playlist, which is called The Cross, which this is a part of. So there's 4 quadrants, and that's why it's called the cross. So it looks like literally a cross with 2 axes, a horizontal and a vertical axis. And on the top we have soul, and in the bottom we have animal body. And so this is the set of polarities on the vertical axis. And they may feel at times in your own body, as in your own lived experience, maybe not in your own body, but in your lived experience, as opposites, as contradictory and in conflict. But they're the ends of the same axis. They are polarities, they're not opposites, and they actually lead to the same energy. And we have the same happening in the horizontal axis. We have the masculine and the feminine. Again, sometimes in your lived experience, or many times, it can feel like, oh, my feminine, my masculine qualities are being, kinds of energies are at odds and they're butting heads kind of thing, or they hate each other, can't stand each other, this kind of feeling. Again, they are polarities, but they're not opposites. They're holding different ends of the same spectrum. And so this cross, these four polarities are what makes us, describes all the essence of our polarity as human beings. And this is a teaching that's come through Bruce. Actually, it's come through the master, the Tibetan master, ascended master, DK, in a very esoteric form, to Bruce Lyon. And then he unpacked it and developed it and gave it to us in a way that we can work with it, in a way that we can embody it, so that it doesn't just remain as esoteric teachings, but it actually influences our evolution as a humanity. The cross is a soul map. So it is how we move through our initiations, or through our development, through our openings as a soul. So it's not a personality map. It's not how am I gonna be able to be a better lover, or whatever, ace it in my exams, get a raise. Although it does affect personality. So yes, it does have those influences. Actually, it does. All the things I just named and a bunch more in your personality, it will have that influence. But it is not a personality map. It's not about healing. It's about soul evolution. And through that, of course, you remember that actually you don't need any healing. You are actually whole as you are. You just forgot. So it's about picking up the pieces. If we remembered ourselves as a soul, we're able to transition through our childhood and onwards, knowing ourselves as a soul, we wouldn't need this map. If we understood that in us we have the masculine and the feminine, regardless if we were born with a penis or a vagina, we wouldn't need this map. But because we don't make it, most of us don't make it through childhood, remembering our full potential, all our polarities, our main key polarities as a human being, then we need this map in order to say, okay, what have I left behind? What do I need to remember or work on? What has been stunted? What hasn't been developed enough? Or what's been left compromised at the expense of something else? Where have I identified myself with more on this cross? And if you were to draw it out and make a cross on a piece of paper and draw it out, where would your sides be more bigger? Where have I identified more with? So the reason I speak of quadrants is because when you have the cross, then you have 4 squares, quadrants. That's what quadrants means. And so the combination of soul and masculine is light masculine. The combination of soul and feminine is light feminine. And light is not referring to better or good or right or even love. The whole love and light thing. It's not referring to that. It's referring to the etheric realms. Light is in light, etheric, lightness also. And then below here we have the animal body, the instinctual raw nature of our animal body. And when we combine it with the masculine, we have the dark masculine. When we combine it with the feminine, we have the dark feminine. And so dark also here does not mean bad, wrong, evil. Dark is referring, or if light is referring to the etheric realms, dark is referring to the earthly matter areas of our experience. So it's more the grounded and more the connection to the body, and to the earth, to matter. It's not as light and etheric. So that's why they're polarities. They're not opposites, they're polarities. And we have all of this. We have all the quadrants and the polarities in us. And this is what makes our human experience. And when we work with this map, we have a chance to become whole, to be full, to have our full human experience. And that's what we're meant to do. That's the experiment that we're on as a humanity, is how do I claim all of it? All of it. So Jung is the grandfather of archetypes in our modern psyche, as we understand archetypes. And the thing that he said about archetypes is that they are universal and they are archaic, which means everybody, they apply to everybody. It is the human psyche. It's not what culture, what language, what religion, what social class, how old, what time in history. It's everybody, universal. And archaic, as old as time. There's something in our human psyche that we relate to certain universal archaic energies, primordial energies. Now, Jung outlined 12, 24 archetypes that we can identify, that we can relate to and work with. However, this map reduces it to 4. So it's even more simple, or more essential oil essence drop of that, of what energies exist. So if I go from my experience as one individual in 8 billion people on this globe right now, to get from that to wholeness, or to get from that to oneness, is a pretty big leap. But if I use archetypes as a bridge, then I have a much better chance at getting to wholeness. So we can think of a piece of pie, this is always my analogy, cut into 12 or 24 pieces, and I eat each piece and I integrate that piece. But in this pie we have 4, reduced from 24 to 12 to 4. Dark and light, feminine and masculine, period. And so then if I work with each piece of this 4-pieced pie, I eat it, I digest it, and I let it through me. And then I go and do the same thing with the next piece, and I do the next piece, and I do the next piece. And then I have it all inside of me. And so that's the aim, that's the intention of working with the cross. It's a path of liberation and full awakening. It takes you all the way through, for sure, without having to reject any part of you. So that's the key. Like all of humanness comes along for that awakening, right? It's not at the expense of any parts. So yeah, that's about the cross. I'm very grateful that I came across this work and I came across Bruce's teachings 7 years ago, and I've been really diving deep, and all my work is dedicated. Almost all my work is exclusively dedicated to the cross, because I believe in this so deeply as a path for us as humans to awaken. So now we're doing the Light Masculine, and this is particularly relevant to the whole awakening theme. Yeah. So I just wanted to introduce the cross first. So now I'll say a little bit about the Light Masculine. It's important to understand that we don't ever want to isolate any of those quadrants in our lives for an extended period of time. We don't want to live in the Light Masculine quadrant like for a week full time with nothing else, unless we're in a retreat, and that's what we're focusing on. Or a month or a year. That's not healthy. The healthy bit is to combine, and they support each other and so forth. But here in these transmissions, in these interviews, I'm isolating quadrant by quadrant so that you can get like a good insight on what that's about. But it's not meant to be lived independently of the others. So there will be a lot of mixing in your everyday life. So I just wanted to make that clear before I move on. So okay, the essence of the masculine side in general is presence. Oh, okay. One more thing about all the quadrants before I go into the Light Masculine. All the quadrants represent love, because it's a soul map. and all soul expression is love. And it may not be the fluffy, cuddly, sweet type of love that most of humanity defines as love. That does not make it not love. The light masculine does not need the feminine in order to be love. It is complete and love in and of itself. It may be dry, or it may not be very, in your everyday life may not be very fulfilling to live only from that quadrant. And that's why we have all four, but they are all in and of themselves an expression of love. They're also, because they're primordial forces, an expression of life force. So when there's one thing like, okay, how does the light masculine move through me? And it doesn't matter if I'm in a man's body or a woman's body, how does it move through me? So I can say my light masculine or dark feminine or any of the quadrants. But then there comes a time where I can step out of the way enough that it's not my light masculine, it's the light masculine, the archetypal energy that's moving through me. And of course, it will still be filtered through the fact that it's coming through this body, and I have certain language and I have certain references and others I don't, and so forth. However, it is that archetypal energy that's moving through, and therefore it is life. It is life expressing itself through this bridge, through this archetype. So it is love, it is life. And all four quadrants are power. Again, because they're primordial forces, they are power. So sometimes like, oh, the dark masculine is the powerful one, and the light feminine is the weak one. No, nothing like that. They're all power. They may not be what we define as power or we recognize as power in mainstream. That does not mean they're not power. They are. They are the power of life force moving as love through our human experience. That's the amazing thing about the cross. Okay, now about light masculine.
I just want to say something.
Yes.
I'm really happy and amazed by what you just said about how they're all expression of power, because that was my main piece with the light side in general, because at one point I felt that they're so cut out of earthly power, or my perception of power at the moment, and that led to a complete shunning and rejection of that side, because you know what, no, you're uprooted, you're not here, and I don't want anything to do with that. And so yes, as we go through the cross, it was that rediscovery of their own power, regardless of what I perceive as power, was really powerful, at least for me. So yeah, back to the distillation of the essence of the light masculine. So
Yeah, thank you for that. And it is a very common misunderstanding. But what you said is right. They are not powerful in the earthly sense. The light realms are not powerful in the earthly sense. That does not mean that they're not power. Just like the dark brother and sister, the earthly ones may not be perceived as love as much as the light realm. That does not mean they're not love. It's just we as a humanity need to expand our definition and understanding of what is power and what is love. And the power, the light gets the power, the light quadrants both get their power from soul. That's an incredibly powerful energy. And the lower two quadrants, not lower in less, but if we have this half, get their power from the earth energy and from the animal body and from that connection, and that the force of nature, that is an incredible place also, an incredible energy, an incredible place to be. So they are, and they must, in order to fuse, in order to come into union, they must be a match. If they're lopsided, if one side is more powerful than the other, or recognized, or more developed, or accepted as more love, or whatever, There cannot be a fusion. So this power must equal this power, must be developed equally. So yeah, this is a beautiful part of the cross. It's a beautiful gift to recognize this in everything instead of rejecting it. And this is a great entry actually into the light masculine, because this is what's been happening for the last 2,500 years, if not more, a couple millennia or more, of over-identifying as a humanity with the light masculine. So this is where we're at. Over-identification with the light masculine. This, out of the 4 quadrants, has been the quadrant that has been most held as the example, as the what to aspire to, or what's good, or what's right. And because there's been so much emphasis on it, it's become exaggerated, and a lot has gone into shadow, or a lot has become distorted, and it's been at the expense of the other quadrants. It's been at the expense of the dark brother. It's been at the expense of the feminine, because this quadrant for us as a humanity has been so blown out of proportion. So it is a reflection of the Piscean age that we were living in, that we're now transitioning into the Aquarian age for the next 2,500 years. So each mark is about 2,500 years. And the Piscean age was about these saviors. So 2,500 years ago, we had Buddha. 2,000 years ago, we had Christ. And these, the examples of the light masculine coming into the world, and this will be the rescuer, this will be the Messiah, this will be the savior, this will be the one who connects me to God. So the light masculine, when in healthy, when in balance, the healthy light masculine is a transmission of I know who I am. And that's not I'm a mother or a father or a shopkeeper or whatever your label identity is based on, your personality labels are. But I know who I am as a soul. I know who I am. And I know I am here. Not so that I can eat, sleep, shit, repeat, nor to just make a lot of money or to have as much fun or to whatever accomplishments or goals, but why I'm really here. Soul purpose. So this is, if there's anything to take away from the light masculine, it is this. I know myself as divine. I know myself as a soul, and nothing can touch that. And then I know why I'm here. I've chosen incarnation. I've come here for a reason. And I know it. I'm in touch with it. And I live it. I shine it. So this is the main transmission of the light masculine. But both masculines have presence, have penetrative presence, because the masculine has that energy of penetration, and in the light masculine it would be penetrative consciousness. So it would be I will transcend and I will transcend and I will transcend through consciousness. So it's not so much about I will penetrate matter, but I will penetrate using consciousness to transcend, to go beyond. And so the masculine way of spiritual awakening is like, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this is not me. And like that, moving through the veils of illusion, using, in the light masculine, using consciousness to pierce through and do away with those veils of illusion. And so he, whether you're in a woman's body or a man's body, still he uses consciousness until there is nothing left. There is just the one. There is nothingness. And that one or that nothingness is God. That one or that nothingness is your divine essence. And so to walk through this world knowing yourself as divine, and that nothing can ever taint that no matter what happens and what breakups or what you got fired or your kids in a mess or whatever thing you might be going through in your daily life, I know who I am and I know why I'm here. And that requires clarity. That clarity, it's clear, and focus, and discipline. So these are beautiful aspects of the light masculine. It's very powerful. There's also a sense of freedom. Of, I'm free. I'm not bound. It is boundless. Boundless, not bound by form, not bound by these restrictions. Boundless, infinite. Like God, like the cosmos. So I'm just going to invite you for a moment, those who are watching, just take a moment and just close your eyes and feel into that. Can I identify with the light masculine, and to what extent? Boundless, freedom. I know who I am. And I'd like to bring that back to what Karim said about, can you feel the power in that? Knowing who you are and why you're here. Or maybe you don't know who you are and why you're here. But to connect to that longing. Okay, I'll just continue a little bit more with describing the light masculine. This is usually what gets us on the path. Like, who am I? Who am I really? If I'm not what my parents expect me to be, or if I'm not conforming to what society says I should be, who am I? If I'm not what my culture or my religion or whatever expects of me, who am I? Who am I really? And for many people, that happens around Saturn returns, happens around late 20s, early 30s. For some, it happens much later, and for some, it happens much earlier. There's no right and wrong, but there's a time, and especially if you're watching this video, then you've probably met that time in your life where you question, who am I really? Who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? What's the point of all this? So that's the light masculine saying, hello, time to wake up and remember yourself. And remember who you really are and why you're really here. So that's what gets us on the path. And sometimes we over-identify with it. So I'll just talk a little bit about those qualities of over-identifying, so the distortion. And again, this is using Jung. He's the one who coined the term shadow. And shadow is anything I don't accept of my psyche, of myself, of my human existence. It goes into the shadow, but it can also be a distortion that I've so over-identified with it that it's become like, whoa. So when we over-identify with a light, it doesn't matter, light, feminine or masculine, we over-identify with being good. With being a good girl, good boy, with being good and being regarded as good. That others must see me as being good. It's not enough that I believe I'm good, but others must also say that I'm good. And if there's an over-identification with the light masculine in particular, it tends to get very brainy, it tends to get very mindy. So over-intellectualizing, over-analyzing, or a sense of there's right and there's wrong, and you're wrong, because I'm right. There's a, black and white, there's right and wrong, there's judgment, and I'm a little more equal. I'm on a pedestal, a little more above. There's an arrogance that comes with it when there's an over-identification of the unhealthy light masculine. and arrogance of like, I'm above that. I'm more than that. And look at you, poor, pigs rolling in the mud kind of thing. So there's an arrogance to it, and the spiritual imposter, the spiritual ego that we develop on this path can usually be traced back to the light masculine, over identification with the light masculine, of I don't have those needs. I don't have. I'm beyond it. I've crossed over. I've transcended that. Where usually that just means I'm in denial. But there is truth that there are those who do go beyond being thrown all over the place and do stabilize in knowing who they are and what they're here for. And so what's the difference? How can you tell? And that's, if I can hold it in my everyday life and still be part of everyday life. So I'm not only to go the exaggeration version, and what we've lived over the past 2,500 years is like this going into the cave, this going, in the Himalayas, and don't bother me. I don't want to know about the world. I'm very busy getting enlightened. And so the coming into the, as Osho would put it, coming into the marketplace and changing diapers and having someone step on your foot and these kinds of things, and then can you still keep your equanimity? Can you still remain knowing who you are and why you're here, or do you get thrown around? So when there's a rejection of humanness or humanity, then it's an over-identification versus like, this is a healthy part of me that's quite developed. And of course, anybody listening, you'll be able to hear aspects of yourself that are developed and aspects that are underdeveloped and aspects that are exaggerated and distorted. And we can all have all three in the same quadrant. So another example of over identification is disregard, dishonoring of matter and of form. I don't care what I look like. I don't care what I'm wearing. I don't care what I'm eating. I don't care the status of my apartment. I don't care because none of it matters. None of it matters. Ascending matters. Transcending matters. So the typical hardcore yogi or the guru type or the priest or the monk or the this kind of thing, very ascetic, or like not neat, very what's the word I'm looking for, when it's when there isn't much. The Finns are very good with this kind of architecture. What is it? I'm forgetting the word, but when there isn't Minimalist, yes, thank you. So a minimalist approach to life, like I just need this much of food, and I just need like a little table and a bed, and that's enough, and like, sparse way of living in the material world, and also just a little bit of money. Oh, the over-identification with light masculine, having to deal with money is a big one. Like money is dirty, money corrupts, money is bad, and I can't value my offerings or my services or my whatever, and I follow the example of the monk with a begging bowl that please fill this, and whatever I get, which is a beautiful way of living if you are a monk. But if you're actually having to take care of your family or even just yourself, then maybe you need some grounding. So it's an over-identification when you can't, when money is a challenge in this way of valuing or being able to ask, being able to own that you need it to live in this world. So money is a big one. Escaping, avoiding, rejecting. Sorry, yes, Karim.
Before going to the next point, I just have a question about the arrogance.
Yeah.
Because whenever we're talking about the light masculine, what comes is the arrogance as the spiritual imposter, or the spiritual superiority of a person. But does it only shows in the spiritual world, or can it reflect in like the business world and the day-to-day, that sense of superiority in general?
So if it was in the business world, it would more likely be, thank you for that question, it's an important one. It would more likely be the dark masculine's arrogance. That I've got power, I'm superior, and you'll do what I say. It's a dark, it is a masculine, arrogance is more on the masculine side of the map. And it is this, I'm above, whether it's in the dark masculine in business or something more earthly, or it's in the light masculine, more spiritual meditation or something more etheric. Or in the light masculine, it might be more, for example, in the university as a professor, intellectual, like, you know, that I can outsmart you, that I can out debate you or out idea you off the charts because I'm all knowing or whatever. So it can show up like that in the light masculine. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so the light masculine is tends to, the unhealthy light masculine, over-identified, tends to want to escape from the everyday responsibilities, whether that's paying bills, or it's having a family, or it's dealing with other people's emotions, or dealing with their own emotions. Wants to escape from the body, physical body, emotional body, realities, and sexual also can be a great, the over-identification with the light masculine can be a great rejection of sexuality. It's dirty. It's where you get lost in lust, and that's certainly a path to, I don't know, hell, definitely not to awakening. And yeah, so it wants to escape from that, and will become numb, or will literally leave, or will just tune out, like no one's home. And so the light masculine, the over-identification with the light masculine, is where most of us have wounds from absent fathers.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, the light masculine is where most of us have the unhealthy light masculine, over-identification with the light masculine, not knowing how to deal with the more earthly realms of body, sex, and emotions, is what most of us have wounds from absent fathers.
Yeah.
Lives.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to comment. That
yes, please.
That this arrogance of I know better is also, I think, very common way of bringing up children, like the father figure who always knows best, whose opinions and views on the world and whatever are always the, you know, the correct ones. Yeah.
Yes, there's right and there's wrong, and I'm right.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can be right with me, but I'm
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the typical patriarchal kind of way of like, because I said so.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was screaming.
End of discussion.
Sorry?
End of discussion.
Yeah, because I can't deal with it. And I won't have my power challenged. Because I know best. So, I mean, when it gets aggressive and things, then we turn more to the dark masculine, unhealthy dark masculine. But in this way of like, you know, we need to be quiet because father is whatever. And it's not only father, but it is stereotypical, and most of us have experienced it in father, where mother took the more stereotypical feminine role. Most of us have grown up in that, and there are, of course, many exceptions to that, and also with the younger generations having quite a different experience. So that's beautiful. But those of us who are in our 40s and above mostly have a pretty prescriptive experience of how our family homes were. So this escaping, and it can also be seen in relationships where it's like, I just can't deal with this, and I leave. I leave physically, I leave emotionally, I leave into my inner world, I leave mentally, I leave. I escape, I abandon ship. And so this is where it's like, oh, you're not there for me, and da da da, and whatever the complaint might be. Yes, I'm not. That's the distorted, unhealthy light masculine. There's a rigidity that comes with the unhealthy light masculine. It's like rigid in thought. Again, there's right, there's wrong, black and white, and I'm right. There's a rigidity in the mind. There's a righteousness that comes with it. Righteous, like, yeah. And then there's also rigidity in the body. Like, mostly if you're like salsa dancing or, this kind of thing, it's not the light masculine that's involved, especially if the distorted light masculine. So the body is more stiff because it needs to be under control. The body, the animal body, has needs and desires that will get me in trouble, or that will throw me off purpose, or that will end up leading to really evil deeds or whatever. So this animal body needs to be controlled. It needs to be, in Bruce's words, colonized. Like when countries colonized other countries, it needs to be suppressed. It needs to be dominated. So this is what we've been living for the past 2,500 years, where soul, or the ascending path, or the light, has been power overing the more earthly, the dark, the body. And you can see in that and what's happening in the world very, very, very clearly in our environment and in the way we live our lives, for sure. There's an inability to manifest in the material world. So brilliance and soul shine and incredible ideas and wow. And then executing, getting things done, paying the rent, getting a job, whatever basic things of manifesting, of getting that project going, or that whatever idea translated into matter. Over identification of the light masculine will cause challenge in this area, for sure. Behind all of this is the lack of being able to hold presence as we descend more closely to the earthly realms. So actually, the test for the light masculine is, can I hold presence? Can I hold presence in that desire? Can I hold presence in the experience of those emotions? Can I hold presence in this pain and suffering, or whatever? Can I hold presence? Can I still be here, know who I am and why I'm here, and still go through this experience? Is there enough presence in me to not get lost in it, but not have to run away? Because if I have to run away, it's because I don't have enough presence. I have to escape or control it or dominate it, control my external environment and circumstances. It's because I don't have enough presence. So all of it comes back to, is there enough presence? And presence isn't something that has to come in words. It's an energy that's felt.
May I hop on?
Just hop on.
At this point, because there's just so much what resonates with my past and with my awakening, so to say, which was exactly like when I was around my 28th birthday. There was a personal crisis related to my career, and it was exactly this, like, who am I? What am I here for? And at the time, it was like in the beginning of the 2000 millennia was just changed, and like there was not much reference points back then in Finland, like where to go and find like some kind of a community or spiritual practices. It was mainly like Ashtanga yoga was the thing at the time that was up and present when you started to search for your own practice. Although my awakening was very tied into a shamanism, but it was not in Finland. And in Finland, the shamanism was still like really not in the mainstream. so I became like a very dedicated Ashtanga yoga practitioner. But the thing was that I became a mother almost the same time, quite suddenly. It was not very planned parenthood. And so I had this huge like aspiration and search for spirituality and like my path and why am I here. And then I'm a mother. Like this whole femininity in me was changing, and there was this like my body was changing, and I had a child to take care of, and this huge metamorphosis and crisis in my life, and like my survival mechanism was the light masculine, was to practice, to control the body that was getting like big, and my boobs and the milk and everything, and the pelvic floor being like whatever it is after giving birth to a child. So it was just like to get under the control, back into control, and now looking back at that time, I'm like, oh my God, like where was I in this complete pull between these two different realms? Yeah, and it served a little while, this practicing. Of course, it gave me like energy, it gave me structure in this point in my life where everything was, of course, with a little child, life is chaotic, and I was like giving myself structure, discipline, and it served a while, but after a year I was burnt out. And you know, it's been a long like path to unlearn that way of practicing spirituality, of trying to control my life and my body. And but it's I'm just so grateful for this time that this feminine energy and this mystery is rising up. And but at that time it was still like the search for the guru, the search for the teacher, and most of them were men, and it was like, and trying to be good. That was like a good, I was trying to be a good yoga teacher, a good mother, a good this, a good that, but it ended up in just, I wasn't good at anything. I was just miserable, basically.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I'm very grateful to you for being able to share about that, because I don't have such extreme experiences in my own in this life history, and so I'm very happy that others can hear about that, because I do believe it is a very common thing, and it is again a reflection. You said the discipline and the structure and the guru, and this is what we've been living the past 2,500 years, the Piscean age, of the savior, the guru, and that we need structures. We can't trust in life. We can't trust in the earthly. We can't trust in the body. We can't trust in our intuition, our impulses, our emotions. So we have to have structure and control. And so much of our society is built on an over-exaggerated, over-identified with distorted version of the light masculine. And it works for some time. A year is a long time, while you're also a mother. That's commendable, a new mother. But it eventually feels absolutely not rewarding if you're living in worldly world life. And this is the solar age that we've been living in, of there's a sun god. And we all huddle around the sun god, the guru, the teacher, the master, and we all get their light. We all feed off their light. We all feed off of we're all sunflowers moving towards the sun god, wherever it is, whoever that is in our lives. And we're moving away from that. And so it's a reckoning of there are beautiful aspects, but it needs to come into balance. Definitely needs to come into balance. So most people do find themselves on the path especially because this is the part that starts you on your path. Why am I here? And then most people do find the yoga or some kind of ashram or some kind of this more light masculine approach to spirituality or to expansion, evolution. And it is usually over the past, what we have as examples almost universally, I will not say 100%, but very close to it, are at the exclusion of below the heart, or maybe below the solar plexus for sure. Maybe solar plexus and some martial arts included, but all paths, most paths, and for sure the traditional ones, have been ones of you need to dominate, you need to put into control, you need to reject, you need to stop identifying with lower realms, and that has been very painful for us as a humanity, very painful. And that's not the true light masculine. The true light masculine says, I can go anywhere and I still know who I am, and I still know why I'm here. I can amidst anything and everything, and I can hold that without the rigidity, without the structure, without the control, because I have presence, and nothing can touch that because I come knowing myself. So an example that I use is our Tibetan monks who have been in jail, tortured. And they're a good example of also the light feminine, of holding on to love no matter what, but also holding on to their freedom, holding on to, I know who I am and I know I am here, even in a cell for decades, a jail cell for decades, even tortured. But this is just a test. This is just testing me. Can I still hold that here under these circumstances? It's an amazing thing. For me, when I was first starting, my intro was Vipassana. And when I went, I wanted to live there forever. I was like, I never want to leave. I'm home. I never want to leave. But I was working and I was like, I gotta go back to work. And I had a partner, and then I swore that, okay, I'll quit my job, and when this relationship ends, and I'll just come and live in an ashram for some years. And it was this with the light masculine approach of sitting in silence, stillness, and going beyond. And there is a deliciousness to it, but when that's at the expense of everything else, then it's destructive, and it's not our full potential by any means. We will have to come back and sort things out in another life. So, okay. So this is the famous bypassing that of our humanity, that, okay, bypassing the emotions, bypassing sexuality, bypassing needs, bypassing humanness, bypassing and saying, oh, I'm this, I'm this. No, actually you're not, you're just bypassing. Another thing about the light masculine, whether it's a rejection of form as in I don't care, or minimalist, just a bit, you know, like 2 pairs of shirts, and it can also be the pristineness, that everything needs to look like it has, like, absolutely immaculately in its place, no dust, no smells, no sweat, no dirt, no, you know, the pristineness of form, because it must align with the light. And so today, for example, I'm wearing white because this is the color that most aligns with the light masculine. But if I want everything in my life in white, you know, whether it's not just clothes, but, you know, symbolically, then you're going to miss out on all the other colors in the garden of the beautiful flowers that are there, for example. Okay, so the last thing I want to say about the over-identification with the light masculine is that it is a rejection of vulnerability. I no longer admit, because I am higher than, I cannot admit that I have parts of me that might be not divine, or not having a divine experience right now, that are hurt, that are wounded, that are in transition to remembering themselves. And so I have to reject my vulnerability. I have to reject that I have a shadow. I have to reject that I have needs. I have to reject that I've made a mistake. I have to reject everything that would make me human and put even a little blot, a little stain on my whiteness. Yeah, so it's a rejection of vulnerability.
And this comes with a course to the dark feminine.
Yeah, yes, the polarity, the diagonal polarity. It will be the most challenging for the light masculine, will be his polarity sister, the dark. So polarity, 2 polarities, polarity from light to dark and polarity from masculine to feminine. So the ultimate polarity for the light masculine is the dark feminine. This is where he will be most challenged, most, absolutely. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Because I think that's like very clear looking back at this time in my life where I was over identified with the light masculine, that all the characteristics of the dark feminine were, I mean, pretty much absent.
Yeah.
The feeling, yeah. How do I feel? How do I feel from moment to moment when you're just there, like doing, controlling, cleaning. No matter how you feel, no matter how tired you are, you're always just like on.
Yes, you are the light and you are on. That light switch is on no matter what. You're not going to stop because you feel, or because you're tired, or because you have cramps, or whatever. No, you're on. You are, the symbol of the phallic, in Indian mythology, there's the Shiva Linga of the phallus, an erect phallus surrounded by the yoni, and it's like the phallus this is called the Shiva Linga, the Shiva's penis. It's always on. It's always erect. It's always pillar of light, holding. So yeah, that can be absolutely exhausting to have to live out because of whatever the inner wounds might be that are driving you there. The under-identification, I also want to mention that, the stunted version of the light masculine, where there's not enough of this energy there. getting lost in experience, that I can't hold presence. And that's what the fear is with the over-identification. But in the stunted version, you're actually living that out. You're not fearing it and therefore compensating for it. You're, lost in experience, emotions, sexuality, addiction, not sexuality, addiction, sexuality, addiction. There isn't enough discipline. There isn't enough presence. There isn't enough standing or holding. It's not standing, that's the dark masculine, but holding. And you don't know your divinity. You don't even question. It's one thing to be on the path, who am I, and searching. At least there's a realm of possibilities that, yes, I am something other than this. I don't know what, but yeah, there's a possibility. Versus, no, this is it. Like, there's no realm of possibilities that there could be something more. So to be totally disconnected from soul, from divinity, from purpose, and to be just going through the experience of the animal body is also a stunted version of the light masculine. Yeah. And lack of focus, purposelessness. I know that there's been one time in my life where I hit this very, very strongly, this purposelessness. And I was very young at the time. I was 11, 10, where I felt totally disconnected. And I didn't care if I lived or died. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. It was an over-identification with the light masculine. But there was also this part that was like, I just didn't care about the body. I didn't care about the human realm. Like, I was like, whatever. And then also to experience now I'm going to the other extreme, going to this extreme, and then going to the other extreme. So just ping-ponging of, and there's no real reason why I'm here. I cannot connect to it. And for me, it felt like a death. It felt like I was sleepwalking. And since I was 12, I've had a connection to purpose and to soul, like conscious awareness of it. And what happened before that, I do not wish that to anybody, although I know that most people do go through that experience, and it does lead to then a search. But to go through life sleepwalking, that's how it felt. Like it was just a numbing. Like I'm not really connected to why I'm here, why bother being here. So okay, that's about our dear brother, the light masculine. That's and some examples. I've mentioned them, the archetypal energies of father in the sky, great father. The monk, the priest, the yogi, the meditator, the professor, in the more stereotypical sense. And we have many examples in mythologies and in our religious examples. I mean, we're just full of these, with Apollo, the sun god, and Osiris, and we have Jesus, we have Buddha. And Buddha is an incredible example because he did his search and then he came back. And this is like the path of the light masculine full force, is that I experience suffering, I find a way to transcend suffering, and then I come back and live amongst it. And so that's the story of the Buddha, of Gautama the Buddha. So it's not to avoid it. And this is the one piece of advice that I've gotten from a very beautiful light masculine being, which is, it's not about feeling less. It's about identifying with it less. So you feel equally, or you even feel more, because you're so sensitive, you're so more you identify with the etheric, there's a greater sensitivity. So you might even feel more, but you identify with it less. So that's the, yeah. Okay. How are you guys doing?
No, that was just beautiful.
Yeah, actually, I'm having a
Yeah,
lot
go
of
on, Karim.
I'm having a lot of reflections on my own journey, actually. So it's very personal and impersonal at the same time. So thank you for
Is there anything you wanted to share that would be useful for everybody?
that.
Or
Maybe later on,
yeah,
but
sure.
yeah, it's just formulating inside of me. So
Okay.
So would you want to elaborate a little bit more about this connection between light masculine and the dark feminine?
Yeah, sure, of course. This is the big sticking point for most people, and it's usually in attraction that plays out in human relating quite a lot. That a light masculine type, whether in a woman's body or man's body, will be attracted to a dark feminine type. Again, woman's or men's body, doesn't matter, because the dark feminine is going to get to live out all the experiences of sexuality or of emotions or physicality or whatever, being fully here, that the light masculine does not allow himself, again, woman or man's body, but himself, the light masculine, to experience fully. So he gets to live it vicariously through her, and will judge her for it, and will shame her for it, for being hysterical, for being out of control, for being dramatic, for being many things. But that's usually how that one plays out. And again, they are not, ideally, they are complementary. They are beautifully complementing each other. And in order for the dark feminine to not go into complete chaos or destruction or lost in whatever experience, there needs to be enough presence. She needs her light brother for support. And for him to not go too far towards the sun, towards the light, towards the etheric realms, and still have his human experience, he needs his dark sister. He needs to have a connection to her. It's not that I identify as any of this, but I can still feel, I can still be connected.
So would you say that if a person finds herself or himself over-identified with the light masculine, would you call specifically dark feminine to help out rather than dark masculine?
So it really depends, because some light masculine, I would call onto the dark both sides, actually, is usually the thing. So the dark feminine is going to support him in being able to connect to the more emotions or sexuality or stuff like that. But so is his dark brother going to help him connect more to sexuality, connect more to manifesting, connect more to the material, like money and this kind of thing. So it's just working with the dark. Certainly to work with the dark feminine, absolutely. But there will also most likely be a need to work with the dark brother as well, most likely. But definitely with the dark feminine, definitely. Yes, that's one way to help bring his his quadrant, if it's quite blown out of proportion, back into balance. And so his love, his gift, his love is, I know who I am and I know why I'm here. And so to bring that into any of the other quadrants or any aspect of your life is like, I mean, that's the incredible love. It's an incredible gift of love for our human experience. But it needs the dark masculine in order for to stand for that, in order to execute that, in order to live that, in order to make that happen, whatever that is. And needs the dark feminine in order to not be cold or to be able to again live that. So yeah, he needs both of the darks. Yeah, great question, thank you. Was there anything else you'd like to ask?
Would you want to talk a little bit about light masculine sexuality?
Yeah. Yeah, this is, thank you.
Just in case people think that he doesn't have one.
Yeah, and people do, which is amazing because, you know, there's rituals all over India where you have this huge penis surrounded by a yoni, and they're like washing it with milk and praying to it and offering it garlands and flowers and all kinds of things. And it's like, this is Shiva Linga, this is Shiva's cock, and yet the light masculine doesn't have a sexuality in human form. So it's like, it's a bit contradictory. So yes, the light masculine and all the quadrants have a sexuality, and it's a very beautiful sexuality. There's the standard neo-tantra kind of thing of the yab-yum of usually the guy, the one in the man's body, is holding Shakti, who's usually in a woman's body, which just both of them is a distortion to begin with. But okay, this is the way it goes, and he's holding presence, because if he doesn't hold it, it'll fall apart. And so he's holding presence, and she gets to go buck wild and do her thing, and then he's holding. And so you have that kind of sexuality, which there is a truth to that. There is a truth to being fully present there with your partner, being able to stay with that presence no matter what happens, and not be lost in the lust and in the of it, and hold that presence and enjoy. Again, it's not that stiff metal holding. That would be the unhealthy version. But the healthy version can be relaxed and feel, but still fully present, and at any moment drop the illusion. This is a beautiful, actually, practice for women, or a partner. You don't have to be a woman, and any partner of someone who's trying to practice ejaculation as a choice, trying to prolong lovemaking and not ejaculate. So their partner needs to be able to drop desire instantly, so that the other one isn't influenced when they're trying to measure where they're at with their desire and their arousal and their heat, so that yours doesn't influence theirs. And so this is a beautiful practice, and one that I did for, and I still do, but I started it like 12 years ago or something with my partner then, who was practicing this, and it was just drop desire, empty completely. That requires presence, tons of presence. That requires not getting lost, but still fully feeling and fully enjoying, and then there's nothing. So these are two types of sexuality: the holding presence, whether you're not as the partner or whichever way the constellation might go, whatever bodies are involved. So holding presence is one of them, and another is very slow lovemaking of presence. And so it's not a lot of pounding or heat and, like, you know, throwing things around and stuff, but it's slow, it's almost meditative, it's it's like a Vipassana walk. It's with penetration or with lovemaking, with caressing or kissing, that it's very slow and being very present, millimeter by millimeter, point by point on the body, and bringing full presence to that is an incredible practice, very powerful, extremely orgasmic and expansive. Of course, the sexuality for the light masculine would be to transcend and to know God through sexuality. But that also applies to his dark sister, who can know it through her sexuality also, but in a very different way. This is like where I transcend and there's just peace and there's nothingness. It's just through sexuality. And I had a particularly beautiful experience. It was my initiation, my first partner, who was at all tantric, and this was 15 years ago now. And he had been very trained. And I was absolute novice. I had never heard of the word tantra. I didn't know anything, and I didn't understand about awareness. I didn't understand about meditation. I hadn't had my first Vipassana yet. I was totally clueless. And we were sexually engaged, and I was giving him oral sex, and I had a recipe. I knew it worked. I knew what would satisfy most men and what would get to the desired outcome, in my opinion, of arousal. And so I was doing the recipe thing. I was doing that thing, and he just stopped me. He literally stopped me, and with his hands, and I was terrified. Did I hurt you? What happened? And he said, "I'm not a lollipop. I'll never forget this. I'm not a lollipop." And I was mortified. I mean, I just really wanted to disappear, but we were in my house, so I couldn't. And so this is where the light masculine would have wanted to escape. I don't want to feel this. Gotta go. The unhealthy light masculine. And he was like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" I was like, I had no answers, obviously. I was just full of shame. And he said, "Okay, just keep your mouth open, don't move, and focus on the top of," he said, actually, "bring your awareness to the roof of your mouth and to the back of your mouth." But I was like, awareness? Oh, bless him. My utmost respect and love and blessings to him. And he was like, "Okay, focus. Can you focus? I'll just bring all your attention there." I was like, "Yeah, I can do that." And so I did. And he put his penis back in my mouth, and he didn't move. And I didn't move. And we stayed there like a couple of minutes. And I started to feel fireworks, like literally inside my mouth, the roof and the back of my mouth. And I jolted because it scared me, because, that's weird. And so I was like, and he's like, "Okay." And so then he just, withdrew slowly. He's like, "Are you okay? What happened?" And so I shared, and he's like, "Good. Now you see I'm not a lollipop." And I was like, fuck. And those fireworks, those sensations lasted on and off for at least 1 or 2 days, even though I ate, even though I slept, even though I spoke, which I would think would interfere with the sensations going on. There was some deep opening that all he did was bring, and I asked him, "What did you do?" Of course. And he said, "I just brought all my presence to the tip of my penis."
Wow.
Just. So for anyone with a penis out there who thinks you've got to be like hardcore banging for fireworks to go off or whatever, not at all the case. It really does just mean presence, and it's not reliant on form, and it is absolutely divine, and that is love, and that is divinity, and that is life moving through your penis, the head of your penis. And it does not include any force or physical power or this kind of thing, and also can be done with a soft penis. It does not even have to be an erect penis. It's about presence. And actually also you can penetrate without, and this is also another type of sexuality, you can penetrate without physical touch, penetrating through your eyes or just penetrating through your presence. And I know, being on the receiving end, I have felt it and it's been amazing. And also on the giving end, I have done yoni massage. I have given yoni massage without entering, without my finger touching her yoni, her vagina, and she could tell me exactly where I am, and I'd know where I am with my fingers, my energy, once you cultivate this, of course, and is penetrative presence. It's penetrative presence. It doesn't require form. Incredibly powerful and can be very sexually satisfying and expansive as well. So the light masculine certainly has a delicious sexuality. So no more myths around that.
Thank you for sharing. That was very interesting.
Well,
Yeah, and the unhealthy is a rejection of sexuality.
Yeah.
The over-identification is like, I'm not a sexual being. There's nothing down here. I mean, don't even think about it. Like, a non-thing doesn't even exist. Are you gonna say something, Karim?
yeah, that was beautiful. That was really beautiful, and it gives another color and different aspect of the power of the light masculine, or the power of the light in general. And again, it's kind of a shift in my view and perception of what power is. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And this is what I wish for all men and women to hear, because there's such a distortion around this, really. And it's such a beautiful place to be, on the receiving or the giving end of light masculine power, and to experience it sexually. This was my initiation. This was my first connection of divine sexuality, sacred sexuality, and never, ever, ever since then have I looked or thought of the penis, the cock, the lingam as a tool, or something to apply a recipe to, or like, that just put me in my place. Done. That was my starting.
So I actually have a question, because I grew up as a light masculine, like absent father, so I naturally took his role, a bookworm, so I would go like into the knowledge, and the knowledge is all what counts, and it's all that. But then and then when I started my spiritual path, it was that path of absolute presence, the stillness, the meditation, going up to the higher realms. And then I met Bruce, and I had like a deep dive into the dark realm, into matter, into and I believe that my dark masculine actually developed way faster than my light masculine, and suddenly became the split of two conjoined, equally powerful twins. And then suddenly there was that, okay, you know what? We got hurt out of that, and there was a fight between both of them on who's having control. Uh, as I grew within that path, they learned to acknowledge each other. Yeah, they're not playing well with each other yet. They are not real brother in arms that are actually working together towards a common goal. It's either one taking control or the other taking control. So how the development of the light masculine affects the relationship between the two brothers? How does it affect the path and how we walk in the world?
Yeah. So the brotherhood, just like when we're talking about the dark and light feminine, there's the sisterhood wound, and so there's also the brotherhood wound, and we see that in society a lot, where men are abusive to each other in one way or another, either coming from the dark masculine or coming from the light masculine. And that's in men's bodies, but also it's happening in female bodies with the masculine, but it's easier to see in men's bodies, stereotypically. And one of the key things there in the brotherhood wound is about, can they respect each other? Can they respect what each one brings to the table? You know, if you think of the King Arthur and the table of the knights kind of thing, you know, they all bring in a different whatever. Can these two brothers respect each other, and that there's a need? So this is a very difficult thing for the masculine, period, that I have a need. And so that's actually what the journey with the brotherhood is to, even though you're not like me, I can respect what you hold. I don't have it. And because I don't have it doesn't mean it's less. It just means I don't have it, but you do. And I can respect that. And I actually need it because it will support me. And for both of them to come from that place. So it's not like we have to be like, you know, cuddly buddies kind of thing. But do I know you have my back in the way that you can? So the dark masculine having the light brothers back in a more earthly way, and the light, like, you know, like when things when push comes to shove, I'm here. I'm not fucking off somewhere. I'm not escaping. I'm here. And I will hold that point of, I know who I am. I know who I am. I know who I am for us. And then the light brother, I'll stand for who I am. I'll stand because I can. I've got the earthly realm power. And I'll live out this purpose. So it's a beautiful relationship, and usually there is wounding around, like, you're just a wuss, or, you know, you just fuck off, or you don't want to have any fun, and here I am, you know, you're condemning me, shaming me. This is all dark brother speaking. Condemning me, shaming me for my lust or for my desires or for my whatever, so that's towards the light brother. And from the light brother's perspective to the dark brother, it's like you know, you're a tyrant, you're a dictator, you're going to get us in trouble, you're whatever. And so to come to terms with how they judge each other, and to develop that into a place of respect, of mutual respect, and then to acknowledge that they actually need each other, that without the dark brother or without the light brother, there isn't, the full potential can't be lived.
I do agree, but from my own experience, I like the most obstacle between them that I'm still experiencing is jealousy. So it's an actual jealousy from each other. So they do know, they do have a lot of respect, but there is a lot of jealousy between them, and of course that combined with the masculine arrogance, uh, it leads to a very difficult situations, if I might say.
So the jealousy would come if one wanted to be like the other and not feel that what he has is actually power, or is actually love, or is actually wanted, or is actually needed, or is actually respected, or whatever the thing is, honored. The jealousy would only come if I can't own that this is, again, each quadrant is whole unto itself. So there's nothing to be jealous from a different quadrant. I'm here to fulfill this. I'm here to do this, to live this energy. And that is needed in and of itself, fully, in and of itself. It's full. And so it sounds like now the light brother needs to do that with himself, and the dark brother needs to do that with himself. So it's not really a clash between the two. It sounds like it's more like they each need to know themselves as pillars, equal pillars, worthy pillars, powerful pillars, whatever. Sounds like. There's something I didn't talk about that I wanted to mention right now, which when we're talking about the sexuality, and that's the shadow I mentioned was to reject sexuality. But one of the, and this brings also the brotherhood into it, so thank you, Karim. The whole thing that we've been seeing over the past couple of years with the guru, falling of the gurus, which a lot of, again, we're exiting the Piscean age, and we're trying to, we're making a shift, a transition, and into a more, not a sun in the middle. And there's been a lot of corruption around sexuality from the master, the guru, because of this denial that I'm a sexual being, that I deny my needs, and I either go into them in a very slimy, sneaky way that is not really owning my sexuality, but it has to come out in some way. But we see that a lot also with the Catholic Church, with the priests and the sexual abuse there. But there's also the version of, okay, well, my sexuality is a divine gift of God, and so if you want healing, you must have sex with me, or if you want to have that experience of God, or that transcending experience, or that universal orgasm with the universe thing, or whatever, have sex with me. So both of them are part of our inheritance of what we've done to ourselves. This is what it looks like when you deny your sexuality, when you're living in a light masculine, over-identified with a light masculine, and you can't own that you have sexual desires. Priests in the Catholic Church, this is a problem because they're supposed to be celibate, and also the master gurus that, oh, I'm just in service, my sexuality is just in service. Yeah, so it starts to get really slimy and really ugly, and that's not the healthy light masculine sexuality. I already gave examples of the healthy light masculine sexuality, whether it's in a woman's body or a man's body, and these are examples of abuse, of unhealthy light masculine, and abuse of status, abuse of power. But that power is coming not from the dark masculine kind of power, but the power of the etheric realms is still an abuse of that power for personal gain, and to not have to admit that you're feeling horny or you're attracted to somebody, or that you have desires, whatever it is. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, because that's come out a lot lately, and it's a purification, it's a purging, and it will continue to come out. Yeah. And also what's going on with like religions, and like in India, and also with like neo-Nazi stuff, or this, I'm holier in some way, I'm more in God's favor in some way, my race, my color, my religion, my whatever. And again, a huge distortion of the light masculine, and that's the purification that we're seeing, the racism and the thing against Muslims in India right now, and things like that, is all of that coming to the surface in a very ugly way. You have to squeeze the pus out from the infection, and it's looking really ugly. But this is what we've done. This is what we've done. When somehow I'm more favored by God, and then that gives me right over. I'm right and you're wrong. There's a right and a or no, wrong and I'm right, or my religion or my color is right. Yeah, and that makes you less in some way. So that's the outgoing humanity, type of humanity that we've been living in. So I just wanted to add those points. Yeah. I would actually love to invite people and you guys also right now for a moment to to go into a bit of an experiential connection with the light masculine. I've been doing a lot of talking and you guys have been asking really great questions, but I just want to give a little flavor, a little taste. So I'll just ask everybody, and then we can come back. Just ask everybody to close your eyes. And connect to presence. And how is it for you? Maybe it's a challenging thing. Maybe for you it's home. Present. Just like if you were a seesaw or moving from left to right, and there's a center also, center being the healthy balance of presence. And I can hold presence regardless of what's happening around me. Or where do I lean more towards? Do I lean more towards I lose presence, I get totally lost in the experience? Or do I lean more to the other side of I'm compensating for not having enough presence by creating control, structure, mind stuff. And I escape the lived experience. So do I either over-identify or do I escape or try to control it? Just feeling that for yourself, where you're on the spectrum. And maybe with certain things you're on one side and with other things you're on another side. So it's just a self-evaluation around presence. And now feeling yourself in the middle, actually connected to a healthy version of presence, whatever that feels like or is like for you, where you're fully there with yourself. And there's a screaming child around, and there's a lot of sexuality, passion, energy, or whatever might tip you over to one side or another. Just visualize yourself in that situation. What would it take for me to be able to hold presence in this situation? And can I relax in it? It doesn't have to be a tension or a rigidity. I can be alert and still relax in it. Now letting go of that situation completely. And just staying with the present. And asking yourself, who am I? Who am I really? It's not a story. It's also not a label or an image. Going to the core, who am I? And why am I here? What is this incarnation about? What note am I meant to ring, sing? Notice how that feels now. Bring it into the body fully. How does that feel? What happens in your body? Allow it to trickle down. And maybe you don't have clarity. There isn't a clear, yes, this is who I am and this is why I'm here. But at least the inquiry, let that longing, let that thirst to find that fountain where you can drink of and have those answers fill you. That fountain being God, being your soul. Let that at least be embodied. But maybe you did have clarity. Let that trickle down to your muscles. Ooh, for me, it's super, super, super powerful. And this is the gift of the Light Masculine. This is his love. That no matter what, I hold this. No matter what. And this is what, as a humanity, as a collective, we definitely need. There's so much, oh, I'll follow this leader, or I'll follow, whatever thing is moving in social media, or, and actually holding, do I know who I am? And do I know why I'm here? And we're sadly missing that, the discernment from that place, as opposed to just what others are doing or what's some charismatic this or that, and falling into it like the sunflowers. No, this is what I'm holding, and the discernment to be able to distinguish, is that right or wrong for me? Light masculine. From that place of I know who I am and I know why I'm here. This is everything that I have. I don't know if you have any more questions, but this is everything I've got on the Light Masculine as an introduction right now. And imagine the world, what it would be like if we all moved and walked and interacted and did business from and did parenting from and did lovemaking from and all the earthly realm stuff from knowing who I am. It is said that right now, look, we as a humanity are moving from a personality to a soul initiation as a collective, as a humanity, as this being that is the earth, which means this is exactly what you'll be pushed, if you haven't reached there yet in your daily life, you'll be pushed to question. And this is the entry point to the soul path. Who am I? Why am I here? And so the epidemics and the riots and who knows what's still waiting for us over these years and this decade are all pointing us to the same direction. Soul, soul, in a body, feeling with presence, all meeting in the center as love. How are you guys doing? Saija, you're muted. I'm trying to unmute you. Can you unmute you? You could, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. It was beautiful. Yeah, I think the most profound and practical tool for me is the presence. That just be there, whatever comes up. be there in the chaos, be there in the pain, in the uncomfort, and it will change. It will shift, but it will, you know, stay as long as I am not present. That's the trick.
Right. Yes. A rewording of great Buddhist teachings. Yes. Right.
Yeah, it's that's what came to me actually. It's very close to that. It's just presence and being, and that's all what is needed. Like not even needed. It's all what we can do, or what the Light Maculine can do, is just to be here and to be present with whatever is going on. And that's it.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you to all those who have been watching this. Light and blessings to you all.
Thank you, Taki'h. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. It was a pleasure.